Hello, YouTube. Hope everyone's doing well. Sure you all missed me last week. I was AWOL. I was doing a little bit of a pilgrimage to 171 Lake Washington Boulevard East. Um, Made my way to Aberdeen as well, a few other places, Marco Polo Hotel, and of course took a look at the Pacific Ocean. Rest in peace, Dennis Wilson. That's a heck of an album as well while you're at it. I don't know if the album's better than the ocean itself. That'd be not an apples to oranges comparison, maybe a red apple to green apple comparison. Who can say? I don't know. But it was beautiful. And yeah, I had some time to touch that sacred ground and hang out with the memory of my good buddy Kurt here. Across time and space, right? Anyways, that was a lot of fun, but it's good to be back, and I've got some stuff to waffle about. One thing I wanted to touch on was a new author that I discovered by the name of Richard Sennett. This is backwards for you, whatnot. This is his book, The Conscience of the Eye, The Design and Social Life of Cities. This is just something that I picked up at random at a bookshop in Marshfield. I think it's called like Thimbleberry Books or something. Tons of awesome stuff there. They had two other books of his as well, and I never heard of him before. It just sounded like an interesting concept, so thought I'd check it out, and really glad I did. Only just about a third of the way through it, but yeah, really enjoying it. I'll share a little taste of it with you here, just so you can kind of get an idea of what he gets up to. This is from one of the early chapters here, The Refuge. He starts, among these, I thought I had found something of commercial value. It appeared to be a sketch in oils for William Orchardson's The First Cloud, a painting of the 1890s, now in the collection of the Tate Gallery in London. Orchardson's is the story painting of an elegant young woman walking from her room as her young husband, formally attired, his hands thrust into his cummerbund, watches her retreating back. He looks angry and puzzled. Evidently, they have just argued, and it is their first cloud. The painting easily puts in mind to anyone with a taste for the Victorian era, and who doesn't have a taste for that, right? A famous declaration of faith in the virtues of the home that John Ruskin made in Sesame and Lilies, which I need to pick up a copy of this as well. Poor Effie Gray, right? Anyways, first published in 1865. So this is from Sesame and Lilies. This is the true nature of home. It is the place of peace, the shelter, not only from all injury, but from all terror, doubt, and division. Insofar as it is not this, it is not home. So far as the anxieties of the outer life penetrate into it, and the inconsistently minded, unloved, or hostile society of the outer world is allowed by either husband or wife to cross the threshold, it ceases to be a home. It is then only a part of the outer world which you have roofed over and lighted fire in. But so far as it is a sacred place, a vestal temple, a temple of the hearth, it is a home. Now, it's very tempting to agree with Ruskin there. In fact, I probably do at the end of the day. It sounds like a nice way to nest oneself. Surely. But he goes on to, Richard Sennett goes on to say, in the course of Sesame and Lilies, the dream of a safe interior spoke to Ruskin ever more strongly, as it spoke to his age. The sketch of Orchardson's painting before me, a painting equally celebrated in its time, showed a couple awakening from Ruskin's dream. And he goes on to talk about these different ways in which we organize our worlds, of course, our houses, going from being more communal to having these separate rooms for separate purposes. And then he goes on to talk about how cities develop much the same way. And I'm really interested to see how he develops this throughout the whole book. And I went on to watch a few of his talks and lectures on YouTube, which are also great. The ones I've seen, anyways. And he gets into some, yeah, pretty heady stuff as far as social issues, and certainly city seems to be one of his specialties. But I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised, to find that he is very interested in that distinction between craftsmanship and artistry. And he certainly put a lot more thought into it than I have. He's a whole career to put into it. But yeah, he's got several lectures on that, and I believe he also has a book about that. So I'll have to look that up and see if I can order a copy of it. Just the general gist of, if I'm understanding him correctly, he places much more weight on craftsmanship than art, whereas I, of course, yeah, put more put more weight on artistry. I think if once again, I need to read the book, but if I'm getting a rough estimate of his idea, I think the same reasons that he esteems craftsmanship so highly is the same reasons that um, I esteem art more so. He To him, craftsmanship is something that's open to everyone. Society should be very craftsmanship oriented. People should. Sorry, my air conditioner is going through its paces back there. Shut it off, and apparently it didn't like that. Anyways, I'm not using the facilities while I'm filming this, if that's what you're thinking. Anyhow, uh, so so yeah, he wants to see more of craftsmanship in society, certainly, and the benefits that it brings to the individual by slowly working through and learning something, mastering a craft, which I 100% agree with. In fact, I liked his thoughts on going slow, because I go very slow on the stuff that I do as well. It might just be from lack of motivation or energy, but I do like having that time to stop and think as I'm going along. And he talks about that, being able to make conscious thought. If you move too quickly on something, then you're doing it kind of by reflex, maybe. Um, you might have a knack for something, so you might be able to get quite far without having to think too deeply on it. But if you slow down and you put in that conscious thought, time after time after time, potentially year after year, um, yeah, you're going to be able to get to a level that there's just no other shortcut to it. So I liked his thoughts on that. And he thought that too much attention was given to um, artistry, these sorts of, bursts of inspiration, because a lot of times those don't require the same level of craft. And also seemed like he was kind of hinting that they're a rarer thing. It's not something that's as achievable to everybody, and by people focusing on that, they lose sight of all the benefits that can come from spending time learning a craft. Which I don't think he's wrong in that. And I think on a level of society as a whole, yes, I think we'd all be served better to learn some sort of craft, or take that approach to our day-to-day life. But I think when we're talking about things that are held up as being as the highest level, that get the massive attention and so forth, where it's sort of considered these top in their field individuals, there really should be some inspiration attached to that, not just the craftsmanship. Be nice to see that, anyways. So yeah, it's a slight bone, I guess I would have to pick with his reasoning there, if I'm understanding it correctly. So I'm open to maybe understanding it better and delving into that. So I look forward to that very much. Other than that, not a whole lot going on. Started reading Moby Dick finally. It only took me about 20 years of telling myself I need to do it to finally crack that open. And of course, I'm kicking myself for being an absolute fool for not reading it earlier. It's hilarious. Seems like all the, I don't know if all, but boy, I can't think of any that aren't off the top of my head. These, canonized works, these truly, ones that are held in extremely high esteem and seem to have passed the test of time, they're all hilariously funny. Even though, they're a tragedy, a Shakespearean tragedy. The dialogue is hilarious. Same with Moby Dick. I think that's why I didn't get into it. I just thought, it's just this old New England dreary tale about a guy on a boat with a whale, and it just, when I was in high school, I had to read a couple pages of it, and it just didn't grab me at all. It just seemed bleak, and but now, yeah, just looking at just the observations of Ishmael. I said, wow, I should know the main protagonist. But yeah, hilarious. Just, yeah, it's just so much humanity that you can learn, intertwined in every part of the story. So yeah, amazing work so far. So I'm looking forward to getting through that. And when I was out by the Pacific Ocean, I did get to see some whales as well. So that all tied together. Got to see a couple pairs of mama humpback whales with their babies out there feeding on by the San Juan Islands. So that was really cool. So it's been a sort of whale-centric week or two, which is cool. Oh yeah, one other thing. Yeah, I can get into this a little bit. Watched a video. It was an interview. I can't remember the name of it or who did the interview. I'll try to put a link when I post this. I am a born-again Luddite in good standing, so might be against my principles to do that, but I'm going to see if I can figure it out, and maybe I'll get away with it. I can ask for forgiveness after the fact if I'm successful. Hopefully I can do that. Anyways, waffling, jeez. It was an interview with George Benson, brilliant guitar player, and it was the questions in this snippet that I saw anyways pertain to his approach to playing the guitar and how he practices, and he had some really good insights over a lifetime of playing. How he breaks down the guitar neck into different chords, different keys, and how instead of just sticking to the usual chord shapes, he'll find ways to just alter them slightly just to keep the listener guessing on your toes. But one thing that he mentioned, which I thought was an excellent idea, is that in practicing, he said when he was younger, he noticed that if he practiced, say, 10 things, maybe 1 or 2 would stick. You only retain so much. And so what he did is, instead of practicing 10 things and having 1, 2, 3 sticking, he'd practice 100 things, and then maybe 10 things would stick. I thought, yeah, that's a great approach to take. So yeah, we shouldn't be afraid to overload our mental capacity, but try to take on as much as we can, and we'll increase the same percent. We might retain the same percentage, but since we're attempting so much more, we will retain more. So, and I've noticed that too in my own practice to some extent. So that rang true to me anyway. So that was a great suggestion and something I'm going to try to do more of, be more disciplined and yeah, put in a little more work on some of that stuff. So that was really cool. Oh, and I did see another video. I hope I can find it. I'll try to link it though. A young lady going into the role that nepotism plays in the arts. This is something I don't want to spend a ton of time on. I thought about doing kind of my own video about this, but she covered it perfectly, and it's kind of an slightly unsavory subject. I'd rather focus on the art itself and things like that than get into those kind of issues. But it does bear mentioning that a lot of times when you see artists, successful musicians or actors, people in prominent places, in show business or in just about any, I guess, front-facing industry like that. When you dig into their bio, it's quite common, to say the least, that they have a connection. Their parent is in the business. Their parent might be might be successful, famous. I came across that. This wasn't an entire shock to me, but it kind of was with the Strokes. Like I knew Julian Casablancas' dad was a had a talent agency or something like that, or modeling agency, but all of them, all of their parents were successful. Some of them in the music business. Albert Hammond Jr., his father, successful musician. Um, and there's a lot of that. The Billie Eilish thing, I didn't want to spend a ton of time on that, but yeah, certainly her family, very connected. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important that we're able to analyze the art itself, because that um, isn't a disqualifier. If the art is still incredible, then it doesn't matter if they got a leg up or doors open for them. The main thing is the end result. Certainly, when we look at the history of the arts, a lot of people were in very privileged positions, I guess, to use that hackneyed term, but George Gordon, yeah, Lord Byron, he was an aristocrat basically, so he was in a position where he could spend his time focusing on his writing and his poetry. A lot of these people are in similar positions. So that's not necessarily a disqualifier, but it does kind of pose a problem though when we get into that craftsmanship type thing, as we talked about with Richard Sennett. That if it isn't inspired, if it isn't a great work of art, if everybody's crafting throughout society, they have that they're spending their time learning their craft. Well, the stuff that's going to be put on a pedestal as an example to everyone else, if everybody's crafting is as subjective as it is, with it reasonably within similar bounds, if you've got 100 people that all are very good at sculpting some sound collages on their computer, putting some beats together and whatnot, if out of those 100 people, if one of them's mother is a record producer, or their brother is signed to a management company, or is an actor, or or is the vice president of the record label, out of those 100 sound crafters, which one is gonna be bumped right to the top? Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. So we need to be able to recognize that just because something is in the limelight, is it because it is literally the cream rising to the top, or is it because there's people that are already at the top and they're going to showcase what they got? So yeah, that's enough said about that, I think. Anyways, that is my waffle for this week. Have a great one.